Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm starting off hopefully a recurring series. It's going to be my weekly perfume rotation, basically what I've worn in the past week. This isn't certainly a revolutionary format. A lot of people do it, but I think it's fun. I think if I can manage to do this once a week, that'll provide some consistent content for the channel. I know you guys want me to upload more on this channel. Don't worry, more videos are coming. I have a Serge Lutens video coming. Once I get a couple more bottles I'm seeking, I'm going to do a deep dive on Serge Lutens. I'm also going to rank my Amouage collection. So lots of stuff to look forward to and many more ideas than I've just mentioned. So without further ado, let's start talking about what I wore in the past week. Starting off with what I wore a week ago. This is Amouage Jubilation 40. This is the exceptional extrait version of the original called Jubilation XXV, or a lot of people just call it Jubilation 25. This is, in a few words, sort of like a sweet, jammy blackberry incense. The original is, subject to a lot of controversial reformulation. A lot of people say the modern version is bad, so people jump for this version. I think the modern stuff is still really good. I think this is really good. So Jubilation 40, again, it's sort of this really regal smelling royal smell. It's blackberry incensey. The opening in this is a little camphorous. It's a little green, has that black currant, like slightly pissy edge. That might sound a little weird, but sometimes black currant does that in fragrances. I get a little tiny bit of oud, but generally speaking, this is a jammier, sweeter, maybe richer take on the original. Longevity-wise, don't come to Jubilation as a DNA and expect unbelievable longevity. I maybe get 6 hours with Jubilation 40, and that's just enough for me, because I think this is a killer evening scent, and honestly, you can wear this any time of year. You don't just have to wear this in the colder months. I actually think the scent profile really shines, and in my opinion, might even be intended to be worn in the heat. It really just gives off that sort of airy, slightly sweet, almost like mysterious smelling Middle Eastern feel. I think it's absolutely wonderful. So if you haven't tried Amouage Jubilation 40, get yourself a sample. You can get bottles for this for pretty decent deals for what it is. I mean, if you were to use this as like a signature scent, I mean, you probably won't have to buy a bottle for a very, very, very long time, considering how good the performance is per spray, if that makes sense, even though Amouage sprayers are notoriously mediocre. All right, next up in the rotation, I wore another Amouage and another gold bottle Amouage, I guess. This is none other than Amouage Gold Man. This is the very first fragrance Amouage ever produced, I think. There was a pair. There was Gold Man and Gold Woman, I think in 1983? Or was it 1981? No, Chanel and Teus was 1981. This was 83, I'm pretty sure. I think the perfumer for this was Guy Robert. And this is definitely a vintage smelling scent profile. Some would even call this a vintage feminine floral. It does come off as old-fashioned, in my opinion. Modern bottles, which mine is I think it's an eye batch, if you can get it to focus there. There we go. It is an eye batch. People do talk about the reformulation and the differences between older bottles and modern bottles. In my opinion, the older bottles are more animalic, more powerful, and smell even more vintage than the modern stuff. And the modern bottles, which mine is, it's just soapier and muskier. But the scent profile overall comes off as exceptionally elegant. This is probably one of the most elegant scent profiles in my entire collection. I've worn this to weddings. I've worn this to dinners. It does come off as it does have a lot of presence, but not necessarily in an obtrusive way. It does come off as like very silently confident, if that makes sense. I get a lot of white florals combined with that animalic civet, and it's musky and soapy. And maybe I get a little bit of incense. But to be honest with you, that classic Amouage incense doesn't really stick out to me in the scent profile. I do just get a lot of that soapy, musky, civet sort of feel. So if you're a fan of vintage leaning fragrances or vintage leaning scent profiles and we haven't tried Gold Man, definitely get your nose on it. I really think you're missing out. Also try Gold Woman because that is an outrageously massive floral fragrance. Next up, I wore a Fragcom darling, none other than Frederic Malle Portrait of a Lady by Dominique Ropion. This is probably the most famous, or one of the most famous rose fragrances ever made. Oh, wow. This is another victim of reformulation. It's definitely thinner than it used to be. I would love to own a vintage bottle, but for the prices they go for, you can keep it. Um, this, in a couple words, is a rose patchouli, spicy, like incensey sort of thing. Um, but mainly you're gonna get that rose and patchouli. It is a wonderful combination. The rose is slightly fruity, it's full bodied, and it's juxtaposed against that green, slightly earthy, darker patchouli. And it is a massive fragrance, has a ton of ambroxan. Some people say it doesn't perform. You're definitely going nose blind, at least in my experience. I've had this, I've had occasions where I am going nose blind to this fragrance about 4 hours in, and then I walk by somebody in my household, and they'll be like, "Oh my god, what do you have on?" And I can't smell it that much. So definitely projects still, even in its modern form. Beautiful, beautiful rose patchouli fragrance. It's even though it's the name is Portrait of a Lady, I understand why that might put some people off, but don't be put off by it. Rose fragrances, at least in my experience, a lot of them are unisex, and in my opinion, Portrait of a Lady is absolutely 100% unisex. I know many, many of my friends that are males wear this fragrance, so try Portrait of a Lady. Still a classic, even if the modern version isn't as dense as it used to be, which I can't even imagine what a vintage bottle would smell like. It just had to be absolutely ridiculously monstrous. Continuing the theme of Frederic Malle and continuing the theme of spring, actually, this is Frederic Malle En Passant by Olivier Jacobetti. This is a lilac fragrance. This is a sort of a soapy clean, oh wow, soapy clean, watery green lilac fragrance. If you love lilacs, and I have lilac bushes around where I live, this smells pretty much identical to a lilac bush in bloom just after it rained. This is probably the most stereotypically feminine scent profile in my entire collection, but it's one of those things where it just smells so photorealistic and so damn good. I don't care. I just don't care. This is the most this is the fragrance that I think of first when I think of spring fragrances. It really does an unbelievable job at evoking the exact smell of something that I've smelled in real life, and that is really cool. Um, Daniel from the channel Seldomly Often, I'll link him in the description. Sometimes he talks about fragrances as being just a smell and not really a fragrance. This, in my opinion, is an example of that. Um, Lily of the Valley, I think, is in here. Just other florals that make up this lilac accord, because I do not believe lilac is a flower that produces any sort of natural oil or extract. They have to recreate the smell of it with accords. And that's where the skill of Olivia Jacobetti as the perfumer comes in here. She's made so many famous fragrances, namely one that I'm trying to hunt right now, Tea for Two. Impossible to find right now. People want crazy money for it. So check out En Passant, especially if you love sort of realistic florals. All right, next up, I wore Ambre Supreme by Les Indemodables. Look at me in the bottle there. Oh. This is a crazy fragrance. So, Les Indemodables, they're kind of known for using incredibly high quality ingredients. And when you smell their compositions, they aren't necessarily in your face complex. They do impress me just from the get-go with how just obviously high quality they are. And Ambre Supreme uses allegedly 5% ambergris tincture. And if you don't know what ambergris is, it is literally whale vomit, basically. Okay? But don't get put off by it, because this smells unbelievable. So, this essentially comes off as your skin, but better. And that's a description Daniel from Semley often uses, but I really do wholeheartedly agree with him, and I really couldn't describe it any better. This is sort of like this is a slightly aldehydic, spicy, slightly animalic in like a your skin but better way. Um, Marine leaning scent. It is incredibly difficult to describe, but when you smell this, everything that I just said really comes through. It's best worn sprayed on a ton, in my opinion, and then outside. This really shines in the heat. This shines in the outdoor environment. Um, I get some nondescript florals from it, and I definitely do get aldehydes in the opening, but really the ambergris is the star of the show here. If you're looking for an ambergris based scent profile that doesn't go in the direction of like a sweeter amber perfume, this would be one that I would really recommend you check out. Ambre Supreme by Les Indemodables. Still one that I'm trying to get used to. I find it to be difficult to describe, but it's amazing to wear. Just a great smell. All right, in second to last day in rotation, I guess, this is Ormonde Jayne Nawab of Oudh Intensivo. These bottles are absolutely gorgeous. It's like they're cut out of a single piece of like rock crystal or something. They are extremely impressive in the hand. But in terms of scent profile, Nawab of Oudh Intensivo again is a very interesting fragrance because there's oud in the name, but I wouldn't necessarily classify this as an oud fragrance, or maybe if very loosely, if so. What I get from this personally is I get a ton of cinnamon. I get a lot of the pimento note, a very particular hot, spicy smell. So imagine like hot, spicy cinnamon with some florals in the mid, but it also has a green edge. So maybe like green rose, green hedione or something like that. Green spicy. And then in the base, after a while, after this dries down when you're wearing it, I do get that sort of maybe a slightly bitter, very slightly, very slightly skanky oud edge. But again, it is so slight that I really struggle to call this an oud perfume. I know a lot of people when I watch the reviews, they seem to get more of a clear idea of oud than I do while wearing this. But to me, this is essentially a spicy, slightly green floral perfume with what I describe as a slight oudy base. All right, and finally onto my scent of the day. I actually just got this earlier today. This is Creed Viking, but it's not just any Creed Viking. This is, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this, but this is a 2017 release year bottle, okay? My friend Mo from the channel Sense for Thoughts is absolutely adamant that the only two good years of Creed Viking are 2017 and 2018, and in his opinion, the fall off where they completely destroy this fragrance is 2019. So there's about a 2-year pool of bottles that are good, and I managed to find one. And I have to say, compared to the modern stuff, which I have decants of, and I have worn quite a bit, this does have a little something special, specifically in the base. But before I describe that difference, what is the overall scent profile? So if I had to describe this in a couple sentences, it would be, this is basically a dad fragrance, okay? This is like an Old Spice. It definitely leans that way. You get a lot of fresh spiciness up front with this peppermint, and then you get a little bit of lavender in the mid, but then the base, especially in these vintage bottles, is this salty sort of ambergris, spicy aromatic thing. And it does last a deceptively long time. I can still smell it right now, and I think Mo's right, guys. If you can find vintage Creed Viking, this is a 50 ml, and the batch code for anyone wondering or searching for a bottle is A9617Y01. Not sure if you'll be able to see that, but it is on the back. Yeah, you won't be able to see that, but again, batch code A9617Y01. It's like the Viking scent profile, but about 20% better than what they currently sell, if that makes sense. It lasts a little bit longer and is just a little bit more interesting and holds on to the original character of what I believe Creed intended this fragrance to have before Creed was sold to what was it? Was it BlackRock? Some gigantic conglomerate like corporation. Um, so there you go. That's basically my week in perfume. I'll try to have these out every week or maybe until they get repetitive because I do have sort of a list I go through per season. So I don't want to put out a list every single week and then have the videos become repetitive and stack up and become sort of useless. Maybe I will just make some individual reviews of some of the perfumes that I've worn throughout the seasons, more in depth, more interesting, go more into the brand history. Let me know if you want to see that sort of stuff. So, thank you so much for watching my week in perfume. If you enjoyed the channel, be sure to hit the sub button, hit the like button, and let me know if you want to see more of this stuff. I have more cool videos on the way. Amouage collection ranking, Frederic Malle deep dive, Serge Luton's deep dive. I'm excited, I'm excited to talk about my hobbies. This is really fun for me, and it's cool starting up another channel. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next videos.